Alright, man, this finna be a good one. So kick back and check it, cause I'm about to drop some knowledge on y'all. Alright, peep this. The CIA out here wild and thinking the way to control humans was chemicals. Yeah, straight up LSD, that same stuff hippies tripped on in the 60s. But nah, they weren't just giving it to people who signed up. They hit up random folks in bars, hospital patients, college kids, and hell, even their own employees. Basically, anybody who could walk past a lab got a taste. Imagine you just trying to sip your coffee and boom, you're hallucinating like reality done glitched, walls start breathing, colors screaming in your face, time stretching like gum on hot asphalt. Some people started talking to shadows, some climbed the ceiling thinking they were superheroes, and a few probably tried reasoning with their furniture. Meanwhile, the CIA dudes sitting there scribbling notes like they got caffeine IVS, thinking they geniuses. They figured if they scramble enough brain circuits, they could bend people to their will wrong. Nah. Scramble a brain and it don't make it obedient. It makes it chaotic, panicked, and aggressive as hell. Some folks came out with flash hallucinations, paranoia, anxiety that stuck around like an annoying ex-researchers called it useful data. Watching humans argue with invisible roommates like it's a TED Talk. LSD was definitely used in MK Ultra. It caused hallucinations, panic, and sometimes permanent psychological damage, but it didn't make nobody obedient. Humans can be terrified, confused, and scrambled, but not programmed like a machine. So next time your life feel boring, thank the Lord the CIA ain't trying to test if your ceiling got beef with you. Now let me tell y'all about the CIA's ultimate fantasy. Mind-controlled assassins. Y'all know the vibe. One word and boom, the person's John Wick with amnesia. Hollywood loves that ish. But in real life, nah, that shit didn't fly. The CIA tried everything. Hypnosis, sensory deprivation, LSD, sleep deprivation, stress, fear tactics, repetitive suggestions, basically a buffet of trauma, hoping obedience would pop out like popcorn, but humans ain't popcorn. People panicked, screamed, laughed at nothing, cried, hallucinated, or just shut down entirely. One dude barricaded himself in a corner with a chair and a plant like he was trying to start a mini militia. Another argued with his shadow for 30 minutes straight. Hypnosis? That shit's overhyped. It makes someone a little more pliable, but it don't erase morals, ethics, or common sense. Combine that with drugs or sleep deprivation, and all you got is a hallucinating, panicking, human questioning reality. After years of trials, guess what? They produced exactly 0 controllable assassins, 0. Nada. What they did get? Traumatized people and bureaucrats writing long-winded reports about how close they were to success. MK Ultra never made obedient killers. Drugs, stress, and hypnosis can scramble a mind and freak people the hell out, but humans stay unpredictable. Free will don't check out just because the government say so. Chaos. Yeah, mastered that. Control, not even close. So if you was hoping for a real-life Jason Bourne, all you got was a dude hallucinating and yelling at a chair. Alright, now we finna talk about sensory deprivation. The CIA's let's see how fast we can make humans lose their minds project. The idea sounded simple. Take a human, take away all light, all sound, maybe even all sense of time, and see what happens. Simple in theory, straight up horror in practice. They shoved people in dark rooms just big enough to sit or lie down, then left them there for hours, days, even weeks. Your own heartbeat start thumping like a DJ on a rampage. Fingers tingle, walls start pulsing, shadows look like they got personalities. Some people straight up thought monsters were crawling across the floor. Some swore the walls were whispering government secrets. Others just started arguing with invisible interrogators or talking to themselves. The CIA thought deprivation would weaken minds and make folks compliant. Nah, fam. What it actually did was turn humans into chaos incarnate. You got hallucinations, paranoia, spontaneous crying, laughing fits, people rocking back and forth, whispering apologies to nobody. One dude convinced himself he was a lamp trying to shine light on invisible threats. Another thought he was running a secret government in his head. And all of this, considered useful data by the scientists scribbling notes like caffeinated squirrels, long-term effects were brutal. Flash hallucinations, panic attacks, permanent anxiety, nightmares that would make a horror movie blush. The human brain ain't a lab rat, it's a ticking, complaining bomb, and the CIA was just sitting there watching it detonate. Sensory deprivation doesn't make obedient humans. It makes unpredictable, scared, and messed up humans, which is exactly what MK Ultra was finna produce. Total sensory deprivation does increase fear, suggestibility, and anxiety, but results are all over the map. MK Ultra subjects often came out permanently traumatized. Humans ain't controllable like a video game. Stress can scare them, hallucinations can confuse them, but compliance, fugged about it. So next time your office is too quiet, imagine being stuck in a dark room arguing with a wall about its life choices. Alright, now we finna get into some next level crazy psychic spies. Cause apparently breaking minds chemically wasn't enough for the CIA. They wanted ESP specifically, remote viewing, which is a fancy way of saying, look at a map, imagine a target, tell us what you see. Some people claim they could see Russia from their office. Some claim they could read their dog's mind. And some straight up claim they saw hostile unicorns. Accuracy? Bruh, don't even ask. Half the time it was pure guesswork. Budgets got poured into this like money was water. Reports came back filled with coordinates, descriptions, charts, and occasionally sci-fi nonsense. The CIA convinced themselves that every lucky guess was a meaningful success and every failure was just a training problem. Agents genuinely believed they were seeing real intelligence, but most of it was probably just imagination. Humans will believe almost anything if you slap a title on it and throw a paycheck in their direction. At the end of the day, psychic spies didn't work. Nobody could reliably predict enemy activity, and the CIA wasted a ton of money chasing dreams that were straight up fantasy. But bureaucracy being bureaucracy, they kept funding it anyway, hoping that someday, somehow, their ESP dream team would finally come through. All they really produced was a collection of reports that sounded like sci-fi mixed with corporate memos and a lot of agents who believed they were mental Jedi. No psychic abilities were ever demonstrated. Remote viewing never produced reliable intelligence, and the CIA wasted money while generating some of the most absurd reports in Cold War history. Humans will believe anything if you pay them enough and call it classified training. So sorry fam, you still can't predict who's stealing your lunch from the office fridge, and neither could the CIA. The CIA had this obsession with stress tests, trying to find the exact point where a human mind would snap. They hit subjects with everything: sleep deprivation, flashing lights, constant noise, relentless questioning, emotional pressure, you name it. They figured if they piled on enough mental chaos, they could get people to spill secrets, obey orders, or just generally turn into pliable puppets. What they got instead was pure chaos. People screamed, cried, laughed, begged, and sometimes all at once. One dude spent 2 straight days negotiating with the shadows in the room. Another got convinced his desk was plotting against him and tried to fight it with a pen. And the CIA called all this useful data, like watching someone lose it is somehow productive. Now if this were the hood, that stuff probably wouldn't slide. You don't get time to talk to shadows, you just bounce. But in these labs, chaos was the curriculum and the long-term effects. Bruh, people came out permanently messed up. Insomnia, flash hallucinations, panic attacks, PTSD. The full psychological trauma package. Stress might make people temporarily vulnerable, but it does not make them obedient. You can push a human to the brink, but they're going to act unpredictable. Some became more resistant. Some just curled up and stared at walls. A few started creating entire imaginary bureaucracies in their minds. The CIA learned the hard way that extreme stress doesn't produce controllable humans. It produces confused, terrified, sometimes violent humans. And those humans? They didn't follow instructions. They screamed at them. Extreme stress can increase suggestibility and anxiety, but it does not reliably create obedience. MK confirmed that humans react in unpredictable ways when pushed to psychological limits. You can break a mind, but you can't program it like a DVD player. So next time your boss is yelling at you for no reason, thank God it ain't the CIA finna try turning you into a secret agent. The CIA had this wet dream about chemicals that could erase memories completely. Like wipe a whole week, replace it with secret orders, and poof, instant obedient agent sounds like spy movies, right? But it ain't that clean. They experimented with barbiturates, LSD, scopolamine, and other hallucinogens, hoping to create blank slates. What they got was confusion, fear, nausea, and occasionally humans thinking they were invisible. Amnesia happened sometimes. People would forget hours and days, but forgetting your own name? That was more like a glitch. Combine that with hallucinations and paranoia, and you got a cocktail of chaos. One dude kept asking the same question over and over, convinced the last answer was a trick. Another wandered around muttering about past lives and gibberish. Instead of obedient agents, the CIA was creating walking echo chambers of anxiety and paranoia, and of course the report spun it as progress. Potential operational use, they said. Meanwhile, humans were resisting. Memory ain't a file you can delete. It's more like a messy attic where every box falls on top of each other when you try to organize. The more the CIA tried to scrub brains clean, the messier the results became. Obedience? Non-existent. Confusion? Guaranteed. Trauma? Oh, that's a wrap. Now, if this were the hood, that kind of behavior would get you either laughed at or arrested real quick. Ain't nobody got time for existential crisis walks in the middle of the block. Drugs did cause temporary amnesia and disorientation, but no substance ever reliably wiped memories or turned someone into a programmable agent. Human memory is messy, stubborn, and resistant to chemical formatting. You can traumatize a mind, confuse it, leave it yelling at a lamp, but you cannot make it follow orders like a robot. So, sorry CIA. Your subjects were not blank slates, just scared, very confused, very human people. The wildest part? The CIA didn't always need some secret underground lab or a basement that looked like a horror movie set. Sometimes they just did their experiments in plain sight. Hospitals, universities, bars, even college dorms. People were walking around their normal lives, minding their business, and the CIA was quietly dosing them with LSD or slipping in hypnotic suggestions. Imagine you just sipping on your drink at a bar. Next thing you know, your perception of reality is getting hijacked for science. If this were the hood, that kind of stuff wouldn't slide. People notice when some shady dude is sneaking something in your cup. But back then, bureaucrats thought anonymity and casual chaos was the move. The reactions were all over the map. Some people freaked out, some laughed uncontrollably, and some became convinced the ceiling was plotting against them. Researchers scribbled notes like they were running a full-time sitcom, tracking every twitch, every hallucination, every slip of sanity. Some of these were social experiments, like dosing students and watching how they interacted, or giving patients hallucinogens in hospitals and observing the fallout. Chaos, panic, hallucinations, and confusion were all considered valuable insights. The kicker? Many subjects never even knew they were part of an experiment. Decades later, when survivors or whistleblowers pieced the story together, it hit hard. Everyday life had been infiltrated by secret experimentation. Humanity unknowingly became the lab rat. MKUltra did conduct experiments in everyday settings without consent. The results caused confusion, hallucinations, trauma, and long-term psychological effects. This proved just how easy it was to manipulate a mind with chemicals and stress. So next time someone bumps into you on the street, remember, You could be the unsuspecting subject of a CIA experiment. Smile polite. Don't start arguing with walls. Then there's hypnosis. The CIA thought they could make humans into obedient operatives with just repetition, triggers, and weeks of conditioning. Poof. Instant Manchurian candidate. Someone who forgets who they are, follows every command, and carries out assassinations like it's a polite request. Sounds tight, right? Nah. Reality check. Hypnosis is more like giving someone a gentle nudge while they're sleepy. It makes them slightly more suggestible, maybe answer a few questions, but it can't erase morals, ethics, or basic human common sense. In practice, subjects got confused, paranoid, and sometimes straight up angry. Some were convinced they were being asked to murder their own shadow. Others started questioning instructions or ignoring them entirely. One volunteer even walked out mid-experiment, giving a long speech about how brainwashing is whack. The CIA called it resistance. The volunteer called it Tuesday. Combine hypnosis with LSD or sensory deprivation, and the results were Chaos City. Humans panicking, hallucinating, and being completely unpredictable. Bureaucrats, of course, praise small successes like a subject answering a simple suggestion, but real-world obedience? Nah. Humans are stubborn, morality is stubborn, and your average person just ain't a robot you can program. Hypnosis can make someone more suggestible, but it cannot override free will or turn them into perfect, obedient assassins. MK discovered that no matter how much stress, drugs, or repetitive conditioning you throw at someone, free will is hard to kill. So don't even think you can hypnotize your coworker into doing your taxes no matter how badly you want it. Humans just ain't built like that. So peep this. In 1973, the CIA decided enough was enough, or maybe too much. They went full scorched earth on MK Ultra records, shredding, burning, incinerating nearly everything knowledge is power, right? Well, they just gave the world a blackout. Why? Accountability is scary, and admitting, yeah, we dosed random bar patrons and hospital patients with LSD isn't exactly good PR. This cover-up did two things. It hid their asses and fueled paranoia worldwide. People started asking, what the hell were they hiding? And the answer? Nobody really knows. The surviving fragments of files showed chaos, trauma, and repeated unethical experiments. The cover-up itself became almost as terrifying as the experiments, like the CIA was trying to delete reality itself. Journalists, investigators, and whistleblowers pieced together the scraps and found horror. Widespread experimentation, psychological damage, and humans treated like lab rats. It wasn't just about mind control, it was about power, control, and bureaucracy running wild. And if this were the hood, y'all know that deleting evidence of wild human experimentation? That wouldn't fly. People would be calling you out and law enforcement would be involved. But in the Cold War, the CIA just got away with it, leaving history with paranoia, distrust, and nightmares about what your government might really be doing when you ain't looking. The CIA did destroy most MK Ultra files in 1973. Fragments that survived show unethical experimentation, trauma, and widespread violations of human rights. The cover-up itself became a major part of MK Ultra's legacy. So next time someone says the government don't experiment on humans, just shrug and say, sure, until they shred the proof. We finna wrap it up talking about the ultimate MK Ultra fantasy. Drugs that could make humans smarter, faster, better, superhuman spies. Pills that boost memory, reflexes, problem solving. The CIA wanted geniuses, living weapons, walking intelligence machines. Sounds tight, right? Nah, low-key, humans ain't computers. Subjects popped these chemicals, thoughts racing like a marathon, vision sharpened, attention spiked, until chaos hit hallucinations, panic, psychosis, delusions. Some thought the lab itself was alive, plotting against them. Some lost the ability to tell reality from the vivid nightmare in their own head. The CIA reports tried to spin minor gains in pattern recognition or attention as success, ignoring the Ylin out, delirium, and permanent brain damage along the way. Volunteers became so wild that staff actually feared leaving them alone. One scientist even suggested putting a bell on a subject so they could track it when it tried to escape reality. Superhuman intelligence? Nah, they got hallucinating. Humans crashing out who sometimes injured themselves. If this were the hood, y'all know that behavior would get you locked up, not recruited for spy missions. Drugs didn't enhance intelligence. They just made humans terrifyingly unpredictable and mentally fried. Myth. No drug ever reliably enhanced intelligence, reflexes, or problem-solving. MK Ultra chemicals mostly caused hallucinations, panic, and sometimes permanent damage. Superhuman spies? Pure fiction. So if your coworker seems a little sharper after a double espresso, relax. CIA-level cognitive enhancement ain't happening, and thank God for that. If you liked what you heard today, don't forget to subscribe. I got a whole lot of knowledge to drop on y'all.